Dave Ramsey has been lying to you. He's been misleading you about cash value life insurance for decades, and most recently about index universal life insurance. Today, we are going to dive right into what Dave Ramsey is telling everybody and expose the real truth behind this message. My name is Amanda Ryba. I've been a licensed financial coach and consultant for the past 8 years as of the date this video was produced. And it is my goal to illuminate to the world what wealthy people do with their money. And one thing all wealthy people know and understand is you never consult Dave Ramsey when it comes to building wealth, only when it comes to getting out of debt. Let's dive in. Okay, here we are at the Dave Ramsey website. You'll see the URL up here in the top left corner. I highly encourage you visit this website and check out the resources and the content that he shares specifically about permanent life insurance and index universal life. I will also link this in the description below. But here is where you will find this whole section, insurance and then life insurance, index universal life insurance, IUL explained, by this gentleman who is a part of his team, Mr. George Kamel, which I wouldn't doubt is highly influenced by Dave Ramsey and the Dave Ramsey team. So if you scroll through here, you will see that starts with a nice little blurb about how cash value life insurance, specifically IULs, are a ripoff. Love that they start with that, really dramatic hook into the article. And then I highly encourage you to watch this video. It's about 5 minutes long, and it will give you their entire mindset on these products. But today we're gonna dive into the actual article, and I'm gonna be going back and forth explaining verbally what the reason for some of the information they call out in the article is for, as well as showing you guys actually specific facts and data points backing up why an IUL is not as depicted here in this article. Okay, let's dive in. So right here you'll see it starts with what is index universal life insurance. Index universal life insurance uses your premium to pay for two features: a life insurance payout for your family or estate, and a cash value account tied to an indexed fund. That's why it's called indexed. That is all correct. That is accurate. So that's the definition. But here's the deal. Insurance is not an investment. Anytime you see an insurance product that also tries to be a savings or investment account, huge red flag. For the record, myself as well as many other creators on social media never call an index universal life insurance an investment. It's actually not even designed to compete with an investment product. You would need a securities license to sell it if it was considered an investment. It's actually considered a life insurance policy, which is one of the benefits of it when it comes to taxes and other things like that. We don't want it to be an investment. So I'm not really quite sure the reason to call that out. And again, huge red flag. We'll see about that. With an IUL, the amount of your premium isn't fixed and it'll rise as you age. I think the choice of words in this sentence is inaccurate. I believe he means to say the cost of insurance inside the IUL isn't fixed and it'll rise as you age. So this is where it comes down to whether or not you're sitting down with a licensed life and health agent that is trained on how to set an IUL up correctly. As you'll see as we kind of flow through this article, it's almost as though they're assuming that you're not sitting down with somebody that's designing it correctly, because some of these things could be true or not true. So I'm going to give you a very, in my opinion, non-biased view on this, because I'm taking this from a holistic approach, looking at it from somebody who is trained, but also understanding, because I've come across some really crappy IULs in the industry, having been in the industry for 8.5 years and work with IULs for the last 8.5 years, that there are some really poorly designed ones on the market. So technically, yes, the cost of your insurance will increase inside of your IUL as you get older if you have your IUL set up to be an increasing death benefit, where what that means is the cash value that's accrued inside the policy will actually get added to the death benefit when you pass away. That's called an increasing death benefit. If you have a level death benefit, that would mean that the company would actually keep your cash value when you pass away and your family would get the death benefit. So it depends on how the policy is structured. Usually what I do in the years while people are contributing money into the policy, I set it up to be an increasing death benefit, which would mean that the cost of insurance is going to increase on you as you get older. And then as soon as you start to take money out of the policy, you're no longer contributing money into the policy, we level off the death benefit. There's nothing left to increase, so there's no reason to have an increasing death benefit anymore. Then the cost of insurance actually starts to go down on you in later years, because I would say the insurable risk to the insurance company is actually going down. So that's my definition on that. That's actually why that works. And the IUL is also strategically structured to have a lower cost in the beginning, because that allows your cash value to start to accrue and grow faster with compound interest. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but older people have a higher chance of death. Yes, of course it is true. That means you run the risk of having life insurance policy lapse if the premiums get too high to be covered by your cash value or other savings. Yikes. So again, this could be true if the policy is not designed and set up, structured, or funded correctly. So I have definitely seen a lot of IULs where the client is funding these at the minimum cost to keep the policy open and active, and they're thinking that's going to grow them cash value. That's not going to happen, right? If you're minimum funding that, good luck, right? It's not going to happen. My goal when I sit down with clients is to talk about the maximum that you can fund the policy with. And if you're funding it somewhere between the middle to the max, you'll never have to worry about the policy exploding or lapsing on you in later years. As long as it's set up and structured correctly, that policy will grow and compound and you'll have it for as long as you live. I will show you an example of that as well. That's how IULs work, and that's why they're a terrible way to take care of retirement planning or life insurance. Stay far away. So again, they're using some very dramatic language here to try to catch your attention, which I have to give them credit for because I'm a marketer myself. But as I'm explaining to you, it all depends on the way the policy is set up and structured. So let's dive into the next section where he goes over why somebody would pick index universal life insurance. If you're planning to retire and you love your family, and I'm pretty sure that's your vibe, combining savings and a death benefit in an IUL might sound like a win. I get the thought process, but think about this. While a few of the features in the IUL seem appealing, there are really more catches here than in a game of Pokemon Go. Couldn't tell you last time I played Pokemon Go. Apparently this guy is probably in his 30s or 40s and still plays it. More power to you. Let's start with a look at the benefits. It includes a cash value account that can grow through modest returns based on how well a certain index fund does, which I'll talk more about later. But for now, just know there are many better ways to save and invest. Okay, so I actually did a little experiment on this myself, and I actually dove into what would it look like if somebody put, for example, $100,000 starting into just a traditional S&P 500 index fund, which is what a lot of advisors will tell people that don't want to manage their portfolio to do, compared to if they put that in an S&P 500 strategy inside of an IUL. So I'm going to show you guys what I came up with, and we'll kind of see where the differences fall. Because he is basically saying that you will get very modest returns out of an IUL. And I should also add to this that the IUL was really never created to compete with the stock market. That's really not its point. Now, if that's your intent, you could have the chance to get potentially higher rates of return in the actual market, but you also have the chance for higher loss of risk, right? Higher risk. So let's dive into what I created and we can work through it together. If we look here, again, we're starting with just a basic $100,000 investment or savings going into the S&P 500 with no cap over the last 20 years, and then the S&P 500 with a 10% cap, which is pretty common to see in most IUL policies because the way that they can guarantee you that 0% floor is by taking a little bit of your profit off the top, right? A cap is one way to do it. You might see a spread inserted, and then nowadays there are other strategies which I'm going to talk about next. But if we do an apples to apples comparison, right, looking at what did the actual S&P 500 do on average per year over the last 20 years, these are the returns that you would have seen, right? 8.9, 3, 13, 3, negative 38, 23, kind of so on and so forth. I'm not going to read them all. So obviously we're going to apply the actual rates of return to the S&P 500 with no cap, and then with cap, we're going to insert the 10% cap. So anytime the return would go above 10%, we're going to hit the cap. And then of course, anytime the interest would go below 0, we're going to hit the floor, right? Floor is 0. So we're dealing with a 0% floor and a 10% cap. So if you look at the numbers, they tend to actually keep up with each other. Here at this point in 2008, you'll notice the market was down 38%. You lost about 50 grand in your portfolio if that was you at that point. And obviously this person didn't lose anything, right? They got a 0% floor. Starts to grow again, grow again, grow again. Bam, you get whacked with another negative. We're here again, the index strategy is outpacing the traditional S&P 500. And then of course it grows, 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 gets whacked again. We're here again, we're outpacing the traditional S&P 500. And then it grows, grows, grows. And then bam, gets whacked again, which causes the index strategy to continue to outpace the traditional S&P 500. And then we had 3 years of pretty good growth from 2019 to 2021 because we were rebounding from what kind of happened in 2020. So what you'll notice here is come the very last, right, we got a negative 19%. That is when we start to see the S&P 500 finally kind of crust past the index strategy. And then you'll notice come 2023, that is basically when we actually really see the S&P 500 start to actually go above what the strategy with the cap does, right? So you're noticing we obviously don't have this year's numbers in here yet, but as of today, the traditional S&P with no cap would actually beat the S&P with a 10% cap and a 0% floor. Now, what you'll notice is they're going to tell you, if you actually average all these rates of return out, they're going to tell you that you're in an average rate of return of 9% over the last 20 years in the S&P 500. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you actually did earn 9%, your account value would be at $560,000. You didn't earn an actual 9%. You actually earned an actual rate of return of 7.55% over the past 20 years, which gives us that $425,953 value at the end of 20 years. So average versus actual rate of return is very different. The average rate of return is just adding these all up and averaging it out, dividing it by 20, bam, you get an average rate of return of 9%, versus actually seeing what's the average return inside the portfolio over a yearly basis. The actual return was a 7.55% increase on average every year over the last 20 years. So you didn't earn 9%, you earned about 7.55%. So anyone that's telling you the S&P 500's average rate of return is 10%, again, is lying to you because this is very clear. You'll notice in the IUL side or the index strategy side, your average rate of return they're saying is 6.75%, but if that were true, you would actually have in your portfolio $369,000. Your actual rate of return was 6.66. Now here it's very close, and the reason is because we don't have any negatives in the portfolio, right? So it's almost an apples to apples at this point. But as you can tell, if we're just measuring last 20 years, S&P 500 would have done better. Now keep in mind, we're not factoring in any fees, and we're also not factoring in that the interest that's earned inside this S&P 500 would be taxable compared to inside an index strategy and an IUL, it would be tax-free. Unless the S&P 500 is in a Roth IRA, or that would really be it. That's your only other tax-free product that you can do. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Insurance companies have created a lot of custom indices where they are able to track a few different strategies and give higher rates of return and something called participation rates. So if we look at an S&P 500 that comes with participation rates, you're going to see a big difference in terms of growth. Here we're looking at the S&P Mark 5, which is a version of the S&P 500 that the insurance companies can track. That again comes with a 0% floor, but this one has no cap on how much you can earn. Zero cap, and it actually gives you a 240% participation rate, which think of a participation rate as a multiplier on your money. So if the market does 10%, you're actually getting credited 24%, right? So 10 times 2.4 would give you 24%. So here, it's not tracking the traditional S&P, it's tracking other factors inside of it, but this would show you the rate of return you would have received if your money was tracking the S&P Mark 5 indexed strategy inside of your IUL. Here you'll see again 0% floor, but there's no cap. So you'll notice, because again we get the multiplier, it's not a multiplier of this, just to be clear, it's a different indice that it's tracking. But if we're looking at this, you're gonna see some pretty nice rates of return, right? We've got a 20 here, we've got a 16 here, we've got a 31 here, a 26 here, 14 here, 0, right? 15 here, 0. All the way down to the bottom, if we actually earned this over the last 20 years, your account portfolio would be valued at approximately $1 million 20 years from now, compared to $366,000 in the index with a 10% cap, and compared to $425,000 in the S&P with no cap, but most likely taxes owed. Again, your average rate of return, they would tell you is 12.75%, but your actual rate of return is 12.27%, because if you were earning 12.75, we would have more like 1.1 million. Here we actually have 1.011 million. So hopefully this gives you an actual view on what's happening. Usually when I design IUL strategies for clients, I'll use a blend of this Mark V index and a blend of the S&P. Some companies have a NASDAQ, some companies have multi-indexes. There's a lot of different things that we can do to get a really healthy result inside that portfolio. Let's dive back to the article. The next thing he says here is an investment growth in your IUL is tax-free, but the same goes for many kinds of retirement accounts. So yes, again, the investment growth inside of an IUL, it's not technically tax-free, it's technically tax-deferred. However, you can access it tax-free in the form of different policy loans. That's the key feature of the life insurance policies. That's what allows you to take the money out tax-free. Now, he says the same goes for many other kinds of retirement accounts. That's very inaccurate. There's only one, not many, there's one retirement account that grows tax-free, and it's a Roth. Whether that's a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, that's the only option you got if your goal is to build wealth in a tax-free portfolio. But then if you're doing a Roth IRA, a lot of people can't qualify to have a Roth IRA because they make too much money. Right? I'm based out of California. Most of my clients make well over the threshold to be able to save into a Roth IRA. So what do you expect them to do? Just go into traditional retirement accounts? Well, something to consider, right? That's where we call the IUL the rich person's Roth, because there is no limit on what you earn. Anybody can get approved for it as long as their age, their health history, and their background checks out, they can have one. The next thing he says here is the death benefit is in force, aka active permanently, as long as you keep up with the premiums. But if you're staying out of debt and building wealth with the baby steps, you'll eventually become self-insured. Yes, I want to agree with this. The idea is to build wealth while you are in the accumulation phase of your life, which is usually your 20s through your 60s. And then by the time you retire, you should have this big fancy nest egg of a couple $1 million built up or more that you can live off of for the next 30 years. However, I have been in the industry for 8.5 years. I can't tell you how many times I have met people that purchased a $100,000 term life insurance policy 29 years ago, and it's expiring today. And yes, they have built up some wealth, but they are by no means considered self-insured. They're still working. A lot of them still have kids that are dependent on them. They still have mortgages. Their mortgages aren't paid off yet. And the last thing they want to do is, if they pass away, leave a financial burden to the spouse in what's supposed to be the golden years of your life. So while I do agree that I don't think you need as much life insurance when you get into retirement as you do when you're in the accumulation phase of your income, I do believe you still need some kind of life insurance in retirement. Ideally is what he's talking about here, right? So that's why a lot of times when I sit down with a client, I will recommend they get a cheap term life insurance policy to cover them for 30 years during their 30s, 40s, and 50s, but also get a permanent life insurance policy so when that term insurance policy rolls off, they still have some kind of coverage. And now today, a lot of the IUL policies come with long-term care and living benefits, which means they can be a product that you can access in retirement if you get sick or injured and you can't work, or you're in a nursing home, or you're in an assisted living facility. So it can also act as a long-term care product for you as well. So another reason to get it when you're young, because you're never going to be younger and healthier than you are today. Sometimes an IUL includes a minimum guaranteed rate of return, but even if it does, it's unlikely to get you as much cash as you could get from investing in growth stock market mutual funds. Okay, again, we just looked at that in a comparison. We're gonna look at this in a real life comparison here next, so you can see the difference between the two. Now let's talk about the drawbacks of indexed universal life insurance. There are plenty of problems here. The investment in an IUL never performs like they should because the cash portion of the premium gets eaten up with fees the life insurance company takes from managing the investment. Again, this will be true if your IUL is not properly set up and structured. If you're minimum funding it, yes, the fees will eventually get to be so massive that you'll have no cash value left. But any good and well-trained agent out there that's designing these for cash value knows that our goal is to have the clients max fund the policies, not minimum fund the policies. So I'm going to show you a real life example on how this works and why this is not true. Those aren't the only fees you'll face with an IUL. Commissions for the sales, administrative expenses, premium expense charges, and the surrender charge. Yeah, there's a charge for ending the policy. You'll see these fees a lot with most kinds of universal life coverage. Let's take a look at a real policy. Here's taking a look at an actual real live IUL policy. Here, I'm going to show you this numbers side by side compared to a traditional retirement account, which is what Dave Ramsey likes. So you'll see if this gentleman is 41 years old. he is going to be saving $18,000 a year or $1,500 a month into his IUL until he retires at age 65, right? That's going to be his goal. So what we're going to look at here is you're going to see all the charges, right? Deductions. It's all clearly laid out and explained to you in an IUL illustration. If I zoom in, you will see that you've got your premium charge, which this is the cost for the insurance company allocating your premium into the right index strategies. Cost of insurance, the younger and healthier you are, the cheaper that will be. Per 1,000 month charge. This is only in the first 10 years of the policy. You'll notice that that actually drops off in later years. Monthly expense fee, $60 a year. That's it. That's the expense fee. And other rider charges, there's no other riders added to this policy. So we're going to actually look at this on a grander scale and see how these fees compare to the fees inside of an investment account or a mutual fund. So hang tight there. But let's take a look in regards to the surrender schedule so you guys understand what that means. All insurance policies, including IULs, they have something called a cash value and a surrender value. Surrender is the amount of years that you cannot access your full cash value. Kind of think of it like a vesting schedule in your 401k. If you are getting a match in your 401k, let's say that 6% match every single year over 5 years, usually you might vest 20% every single year over those 5 years. So if you were to quit your job at year 2, you're only going to get 40% of the total amount they've matched you, not the full 100%. So same concept here with an IUL. They do this so the companies stay solid, and it's actually very important. And honestly, it doesn't really even matter to most clients because you're going into an IUL policy with the intent to keep it for life, not with the intent to cancel it in the next couple years. If you had the intent to cancel it in the next couple years, then this would not be the correct product or vehicle for your money to grow. And I've had that conversation with many clients where I'll steer them in a different direction if they can't commit to wanting to own this for life. That's the only way it works. You have to keep it in force for life. But if we zoom in here, you're going to notice that this is where you're going to see the accumulated value and the surrender value. Again, accumulated value, that's how much money you have that's growing behind the life insurance policy minus the cost plus any interest you earned. The surrender value is how much of your accumulated value the insurance company will give you access to. Every insurance company is different. There are some that have a 10-year surrender period, some have a 12-year surrender period, some have a 15-year surrender period. As you'll notice, the years go on, you're getting access to a higher and higher percentage of your accumulated value. So eventually, once the time the surrender is up, you'll notice that you have full access to everything, that the dollar amounts actually equal each other, which here it's looking like it's happening in this year, which means this is a 15-year product. But you'll notice pretty much after that first year, after that 5th year, you get access to almost all of your money. So again, the surrender is a good thing. And this is also how much you have access to take out in the form of a loan or a withdrawal. Or like Dave said, if you cancel it, this is what you get when you cancel it. You wouldn't get the full $90,000 if you canceled in year 5, you would walk with $84,000. But again, the goal is not to cancel it, so it shouldn't matter anyways. Let's dive back to the article. When you cancel an IUL policy, you give up 2 huge things: your death benefit and, even worse, most or all of your cash value you've managed to build. Whoops. Makes you wonder exactly what you are getting for all those high premiums. Again, I think we just covered this. If you have the intent to cancel the policy, this is not the right contract for you, because obviously if you cancel it, you're losing the death benefit. Duh, that's kind of a no-brainer. And if you cancel it in the first 15 years or the first 10 years or the first 12 years, however long the surrender period is, you're going to not give up most. As you saw, it's not most, it's maybe 5 to 10% of the value, depending on the surrender part that you're in. And if you were to cancel it in your 18, 19, 20 and on, you get all of your money back. So again, I don't know where he's getting this from. This is just showing me that he's just uneducated on how the product works. Because the pesky fees keep returns pretty low, your IUL investment will never beat inflation, which is one of the main goals of investing. Let's not go there. You're far more likely to stay ahead of inflation by investing in mutual funds through a Roth IRA or 401k. You'll like the 10 to 12% average annual return way better than breaking even. Investing in anything that can't keep up with inflation is a waste of your money. So we already dove into this. We talked about it here. This actually shows you what the account would do if your money was here. So I don't know about you, but I would say 12.27% is a pretty solid rate of return compared to 7.55% in just a traditional S&P 500 index fund. So again, it just clearly shows me that Dave just hasn't kept up with the times on how we structure IUL policies today to not just beat inflation, but continue to thrive and beat out a lot of other products when it comes to saving and investing. Even though they're not even trying to compete with that, they definitely can. Market performance will affect your premiums, which might rise or fall depending on how well the index fund tied to your account does. But premiums can definitely rise in a down period. And remember what we discussed about unaffordable premiums. You'll risk losing the life insurance coverage that was supposed to be the whole point of buying the policy. It's like signing a prenup that lets your spouse ditch you if your portfolio dips. A crappy deal all around. Again, he is alluding to the fact that you are dealing with an agent that doesn't know what they are doing. Yes, of course. If you're minimum funding the policy, you run the chance of the policy lapsing in later years because you're minimum funding it. But again, as I've said many times in this video, we don't minimum fund IULs. We medium to maximum fund IULs. In that situation, you can stop putting money in at a certain point and that policy will grow and thrive and flourish for you all the way until you die. So again, he's making the same point multiple times in this article, but which is why I had to keep addressing it. Again, an IUL tries to solve two unrelated financial issues and is no good at solving either. What's the real point of combining insurance with investing as a single product? If you said, helping insurance companies make money, give yourself a high five and a swig of champagne. The bottom line is having the two services wrapped together winds up making the insurance portion very expensive, especially compared to what you'd pay for term life coverage. Okay, again, fancy marketing words here. I got to give him credit for that. But the main reasons I see people go into an IUL policy, yes, there's permanent life insurance. However, honestly, a lot of people that are getting it for cash value, they don't care so much about the life insurance. They're getting it for the fact that that money is going to grow all tax-free. They're getting it for the fact that they don't have to worry about losing money ever again in the stock market, the difference between actual versus average rate of return. And they're getting it because it's accessible for them, meaning that they don't have to wait until they're 59 and a half years old to touch it like you would have to with a 401k or a Roth IRA or an IRA, any traditional kind of IRA. Roth IRAs give you a little more flexibility. You can touch what you put in after 5 years, but you can't touch your interest. So now we're going to dive into an actual side-by-side comparison between a traditional retirement account and an IUL policy to see which one actually fares better, comparing fees and taxes and cost and everything. Let's dive in. Okay, great. So we have this software that allows us to actually compare the numbers apples to apples side by side. So what you'll notice is here in the blue, this is going to be a hypothetical example of a traditional retirement account compared to an index universal life. We are looking at somebody starting saving at age 40 and all the way until age 65. So here we're going to see that this individual is going to save $18,000 a year into their IUL, which is after-tax dollars. If he was going to be saving that into his traditional 401k, that would be $22,500 a year pre-tax money going in. Then you're going to see that inside the IUL, he would have essentially paid on top of, prior to putting that $18,000 into the IUL, he would have paid $4,500 in taxes. Now, where am I getting that number from? We're assuming a 20% tax bracket today while he's working. Now, some of you may be in states where you're paying a lot higher tax than that. Some of you where it's a lot lower. I've shown 25 and 30% before. Honestly, it all ends up averaging out to be exactly the same, but I'll show you that as we kind of proceed through. So we're just going to assume 20% tax in working years, and the person saving into the traditional 401k would have deferred $4,663 in taxes. So that's inside his account, that's growing. Then cumulative fees. Let's take a look at the fees. What you'll notice is the fees that the person would have paid inside the traditional 401k would be about $597 compared to, wow, a whopping $2,418 in fees inside the IUL in year one. Yikes, that's significant, right? That's a very, very big difference. This is definitely making Dave Ramsey look good. Now, where am I getting the fees from? Well, the fees are automatically included from the IUL illustration. So those 5 fees that I showed you earlier, they are all combined together and included into the software, so I don't have to add them up for you. And then we are assuming you are paying 2.5% per year in fees inside your 401k. Now, I'm sure you're like, what? I'm not paying 2.5% in fees in my retirement account. It's like, prove that, Amanda. Like, I don't believe that for a second. Allow me to show you. Here, we're looking at an article by Forbes showing what the actual cost of owning a mutual fund is. Now, most people have mutual funds inside their traditional retirement accounts. Unless you are actively managing your portfolio, you could get the fees drastically reduced if you're doing that. However, 90% of Americans are not actively managing their portfolios. They're just in basic mutual funds, right? Target date funds. So if you look at this, you're paying an expense ratio, transaction cost, cash drag, advisory fees. You're looking at total fees being somewhere between 3.42 to 5.67%. If you don't believe me, we can view the actual article by Forbes where you can read through it yourself to find that out. So can we agree that showing 2.5% in fees is very, very generous and conservative compared to the average person is probably paying closer to 3.42%. And the only way you would really be able to find all the fees that you're paying in your 401k is you'd have to read every single prospectus that should be coming to you in the mail from every single mutual fund inside your 401k. Give me a comment below if you've actually done that, because I'd be curious to see. So we're going to keep the fees at 2.5%. I will even change them in later years to show you that, again, that doesn't make that much of a difference. So then down here, you're going to notice the ending account balance at the end of year one would be approximately $23,319 in the traditional 401k compared to $16,115 in the IUL. Now, where am I getting the rate of return from? You will see that the average rate of return we're showing in a traditional 401k is 6.3%. If you Google it, let's Google it together. What is the average rate of return of a 401k? Google is going to tell us the average rate of return of a 401k is somewhere between 5 to 8%. Now, as we go back here, what you should know is that while you're accumulating money in your portfolio, it's okay to be more aggressive. You're probably earning maybe more like that 8-9%. But as you get closer to retirement, you should start to shift your portfolio into things that are more conservative, where now you're earning closer to 3 to 4% rate of return. So again, we're just going to keep it even just for apples to apples comparison, because we're showing a 6.3% rate of return in the IUL. Because if you were earning more in your 401k, you would also be earning more in your IUL, right? We looked at that earlier based on the fact that there is no cap, or even if you go with one with a cap, if you earn more in the 401k, you earn more in the IUL. So again, to keep it an even apples to apples, we're going to keep it at 6.3% rate of return in your working years. And I'm going to be generous and also give you that in retirement years, where even normally in retirement, you would be earning probably closer to 3 to 4% per year inside of a retirement account. Compared to an IUL, you can continue to earn 8, 9, 10, 15% interest because you're in an index strategy with a 0% floor, so there's no risk of loss. So again, the IUL would most likely earn more than a retirement account in retirement years for sure, because you should be in things that are more conservative. So, and then if we look at the death benefit, obviously you have to subtract out taxes. You'd end with $18,600 in your 401k. And then this IUL does come with life insurance, looking at about $330,000-ish in life insurance, right? So if this person passed away at the end of year one, their family would inherit $348,000. Now, let's see what happens as this person gets closer to retirement. Let's put them at age 65. So by age 65, in your traditional retirement account, we would have contributed $562,500 pre-tax money going in. And the IUL, we would have put in $450,000 of post-tax money that's already been taxed. So if we go down here and look and see, in your 401k, you would have deferred $185,000 in taxes. In your IUL, you would have paid $112,000 in taxes. Pause here. Which one sounds less? Would you rather pay upfront $112,000 a year in taxes, or defer $185,000 that you have to pay later in taxes? Kind of a no-brainer. And then now let's take a look at the fees. Okay, who's laughing now, right? Fees, if you're paying 2.5% in your retirement account, you would have paid about almost $265,000 in fees over the last 25 years inside your account, compared to a total of $48,000 in fees in your IUL. IULs always have higher fees in the first couple years because the money is growing and compounding, right? You saw it yourself, some of those charges drop off after 10 years. But then that money starts to really grow and compound, and the fees are so minor towards the total value of that portfolio. Ending account balance, you're looking at almost exact apples to apples, right? $925 in the traditional retirement account and $949. IUL passed it up in the IUL, and that's tax-free. And then of course, if this person passed away, $740,000 to their family because we have to subtract taxes. Here, the family would inherit $1.282 million tax-free. So let's continue. Now we're going to actually look into retirement. Let's take a look and see what happens at age 66. So here, we're no longer putting money in, right? $0. We're going to start taking income out. So if our goal is to walk away with $75,000, $76,000 a year in income tax-free, you would have to take out $95,000 a year out of your traditional retirement account to do that, because you'd have to pay $19,000 a year in taxes to net you $76,298, which is what you'd automatically get out of the IUL because it's already tax-free. Now, if we look at taxes paid, right, paid your $19,000, cumulative fees paid, obviously the fees are still going up in both accounts. Net income received, same. Account balance is going to be going down in both because we are pulling money out, and death benefit is also going to be going down. But now let's see what happens when we are like 75. By age 75, in the traditional retirement account, we would have paid $190,000 in taxes. Again, we're only paying that $112,000 in the IUL, right? Because we've already paid all of our taxes up front and we're not contributing any new money in. And then the fees, my goodness, almost $400,000 in fees compared to $61,000 in the IUL. Now let's see what happens come age, let's say 77, right? Again, continuing to grow. You're going to see what's really weird here is your income went down here. You're going to notice it's at 76,000, not 90,000, and your net income after taxes is now only 50,000. So that's weird. Let's see what happens. Oh, shoot. That's because by age 78, your money runs out in the 401k or the traditional retirement account. Look at that. That's crazy. Completely, everything's at zero. Well, we're still taking money out of the IUL. Let's look and see. Look at that grow. Look at that still growing. Look at that still growing. Age 90, still taking money out of the IUL. Growing, 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 growing. 95, still taking money out of the IUL. Let's see if it goes to age 100. Age 100, still taking money out of the IUL. Oh, boom. Age 101, you're done. So the IUL lasts you to age 100. The 401k traditional retirement account only lasts you till age 78. That's it. That's it. You're out of money by that point because you're paying, by that point, $222,000 in taxes and $400,000 in fees, compared to $112,000 in taxes and $233,000 in fees. Which one sounds better to you? But wait. I'm earning more money. I'm earning more. Let's say we're earning that 8%, right? Well, look at that. It gets you to age 82, right? If you're earning more. Oh, but wait, I get a match. Let's say we get a $3,000 match. Okay, it's gonna get you to age 86, right? So what I'm showing you guys here is it doesn't really ultimately matter. This doesn't really ultimately matter. Even if we drop your fee down to, let's say, 2%, you're still not gonna have more money in your 401k than in your IUL. Oh, but wait. You have a Roth IRA. My bad, right? Which if you had a Roth IRA, you couldn't put this much money into it per year, but maybe you have a Roth 401k. We can toggle that on. Let's make this a Roth now. Nothing's changed, right? Nothing's changed. You paid a little bit less in taxes, but take a look at the fees, right? Fees are still there. So ultimately, like if we just reset this to normal levels, which is what we were looking at earlier, let's say you live to be age 100 and you're taking out money inside your IUL. We scroll down here and take a look. Let's do a little recap. By age 100, you would have contributed a total of $450,000 into your IUL. You would have taken out a total of $2.67 million in tax-free income in retirement. You would still have a remaining $72,000 death benefit for your family. So the total benefit to you and your family would be $2.742 million tax-free. Minus what you put in, you would have given your family an additional $2.292 million tax-free into their portfolio. So looking at this, right, all of this data, showing the numbers side by side, which account do you feel like makes more sense for you and your family? Look at the numbers, right? Math is math. I want to challenge you to think, when do you want to retire? How long do you think you're going to live for? I meet clients all the time that think they're going to live to be 90, 95, 100 years old. If you think you're going to live to be 90, but your 401k was out when you're 78, what are you going to do for the remaining 12 years of retirement? How are you going to have income coming in? You think Social Security is still going to be around to take care of you at that point? Probably not. So this is the stuff that I wanted to share with you guys to be able to really challenge the way you think when it comes to these types of accounts. But here's the best part. If we go back into this article and we scroll up to the top and you guys get to the very end of this video, 5 minutes right before 5:09 when it ends, this gentleman pitches Dave Ramsey's individual term life insurance that they actually sell, their own term life insurance product that they sell. That's the whole hidden agenda, right? They're big believers in buy term insurance and invest the difference, which I am as well. However, they really push term life insurance because they sell it. They don't sell permanent life insurance. So why would they push something that they can't even sell or help clients out with? So ulterior motive is they sell the product that of course they're pushing on their page, and when instead you guys should always be sitting down with somebody that offers everything. Me and my team, we offer everything: term insurance, permanent life insurance, whole life insurance, burial insurance, juvenile policies, everything. We do all of it. So we are a much more generalized, even view of what's going on in the industry because we do everything. We'll tell you whether a product is or isn't a good fit for you. That was a lot of information. I get it. I encourage you to go back again and revisit and rewatch this video. So whether you are a client looking into getting an index universal life policy, or you're an agent getting into the field and you have questions and you're hearing conflicting information about whether term insurance is better or permanent insurance is better or IUL versus whole life, I just want to encourage you to really make sure that you are connecting with somebody that has been in this field and is working on all sides of the insurance industry, not just one side like Dave Ramsey and his team. I'm a big believer in term insurance. I own it myself. I'm a big believer in IUL policies. I own it myself. I believe in whole life. I do own a small little burial whole life insurance policy for myself because these are products that in my mind make sense, and I will explain to you why, right, if you ever ask me. But as explained in this video, it's very important to make sure that you guys understand that these policies need to be set up, structured, and funded correctly for your goals to be met for cash value. If it's not, a lot of what Dave Ramsey shares could be true, but if it is, none of it is. And hopefully this video gives you a greater insight into why that is that way. If you have any comments, please drop them below. I will respond. I will get back to you. I know this is a very heavy topic, and I want to be very clear that I respect Dave Ramsey for what he does with getting people out of debt. I have had many clients that have sat down in front of me for consultations around building wealth that got out of debt because of Dave. So Dave, keep doing what you're doing. I'm a big believer when it comes to the strategies you use to help people financially. But let's be real. The mindset and the knowledge and the information you share about permanent life insurance, it's so old. It's like decades old. That stuff may have been true 20, 30, 40 years ago, but it's not true anymore in today's world. So I really pray that you and your team get out there and get encouraged and get educated on what's going on. I'm also a faith-based person myself, so it's really hard for me to say that you're lying because I want to believe that you have good intentions to help people, that you're not intentionally trying to just get them to purchase your product for your own gain. I really do believe that. However, it's hard to understand why you have built such a massive business and you haven't done the research to figure out how these products actually work. So again, guys, thank you for staying till the end. If you have any questions, drop them below. Please share this video with anyone else you know that is asking questions on this topic. And if you like this video and you want to see more videos just like it, click that subscribe button and hit the bell to turn on notifications because I release a new video every single week. And I love it. Again, stay till the end. I will see you guys back here next week on YouTube.